There is no right way to invest. There are lots of different ways, and each one will suit different people. But there is, I think, a simplest way to invest. And in this masterclass, I'm going to walk you through it. Hi, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Pete Matthew, and I'm a chartered financial planner based here in the UK. And in this investing masterclass, we're going to cover platforms, accounts, and then funds, and finally some easy accelerators to help you move more quickly towards your financial goals. Now, you might like to know that I've written down everything that I'm going over today in a free PDF investing cheat sheet. So head over to meaningfulmoney.tv/investing and you can get that for free. Now, we need to invest money so that we can use it in the future. And in the future, inflation will reduce the buying power of that money between now and when we need to spend it. So we invest money to try and beat inflation. And there are two primary things that you can invest in which have been proven over centuries to grow your money. What my good buddy Andy Hart calls businesses and bricks. That is, shares in companies and property. Now, you can buy shares in the great companies of the world, or you can set up your own business and you can invest in that. You can buy property in a few different ways. Buy-to-let rentals. Flipping, where you buy a place, do it up, and then sell it on. HMOs, commercial property in a SIP, pension funds, loads of ways. But I want to focus on the businesses side of things today, because investing in shares or equities is, to my mind, the easiest entry into investing. So let's talk about platforms, and the simplest way to invest these days is with an online platform. There are loads of them available, so you're going to need some criteria to choose between them. So here are four. Firstly, the architecture. And this means whether a platform offers its own funds or funds from lots of different fund houses. So Vanguard, for example, offers a very low-cost platform, but you can only buy Vanguard funds on it. Whereas Hargreaves Lansdown or AJ Bell or others will cost you more in fees, but they offer a much wider choice of funds to choose from. More choice isn't always better though, remember that. Then account choice. As I said in last week's video, most of us only need a pension and an ISA, maybe a lifetime ISA as well. Pretty much all platforms will offer the first two, but not all platforms offer a lifetime ISA. Some investors might need more complex account types, but they are probably beyond the scope of a video about simple investing. Next is charges. This is the big one. Some platforms charge percentage fees. That's fine if you've only got a small amount to invest or you're just starting out. Some will cap these fees or they will tier them down as the investment levels get higher. Others will charge a fixed fee, which is better if you have a larger investment. Some will charge dealing fees every time you buy and sell something, and they can add up, particularly if you do so regularly, but often the platforms offer discounts for regular traders. I think charges are the biggest factor, so decide what kind of investor you're going to be and choose accordingly. And then finally, user experience. And this is obviously very subjective, but each platform website has its own feel. Some of them have apps, most of them do these days. You might get on better with some than others. But unfortunately, you can't really know this until you open an account and start using it. But you can check out the excellent comparisons at Boring Money and Compare and Invest. I'll put links to both those websites in the description below. So that's platforms, just the admin system. And we need to talk about accounts next. We can deal with this fairly easily. So like I said, for most of us, a pension and an ISA is enough. If you're under 40 and you haven't bought your first house yet, you might consider a lifetime ISA as well. If you have a pension at work, just join it, because if you do, your employer will also pay in, and that's just free money. You might have more limited investment options there, but you can still make the most of what options there are. Remember, you get tax relief on pension contributions. Essentially, instead of paying tax to HMRC on that income, whatever you pay into the pension, the tax on that goes into the pension instead, into your pot. That's decent. Now, if you want more control over your pension investment, you could consider a platform pension alongside your work plan. But you should always contribute the maximum to your work plan up to the amount that your employer will match. Now, if you're self-employed, you're on your own. So just open a platform pension, start putting 5% of your gross income into it. Now, an ISA on a platform is going to be a stocks and shares ISA. Now, you don't get any tax perks for putting money in, but the pot will grow tax-free, and anything you take out will be tax-free too. You might consider a lifetime ISA even if you have bought your first home, because you still get a 25% bonus on everything you pay in up to age 50, even if you can't access it until age 60 without a penalty. Pension and ISA, between those two accounts, you can contribute up to 80,000 quid a year. Most of us won't get anywhere near that. So you just don't need anything more unless you're on a very high income or you've got much more than that to put away. Okay, we're going to talk about funds next and then some accelerators to turbocharge your investing. But if this is helpful so far, you know what to do. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already. It helps me out obviously, but I promise only to put out great content which is actionable so you can improve your financial future. Okay, we've covered platforms and accounts so far, but those are just the mechanism for putting money aside for the future. What actually makes the money grow is the investments inside the accounts. Now remember, today we're talking about shares primarily, but you can buy other kinds of assets in funds too, including property. You could buy individual shareholdings yourself, but this always comes with paperwork, and once you hold shares in more than a dozen different companies, it very quickly becomes unwieldy. Funds were invested as a means of pooling your money with the money of lots of other investors, and that gives you economies of scale, and it enables you to buy far more stuff than you could ever do directly. It's quite normal for one fund to have shareholdings in thousands of underlying companies, for example. So for most people, funds are the way to go. Now, predictably, there are quite a few different kinds of funds available. We've got open-ended investment companies, or OICs, unit trusts, investment trusts, exchange-traded funds, or ETFs, and there's even more. Now, I did a video about the different fund types, which I'll link to in the description below if you're interested. But if you're starting out, and if you want to keep things simple, just stick to OICs, O-E-I-Cs, because there are tons of them available. Now, as you become more experienced, you can look into some of the other options. But as for which funds to choose, I'm going to suggest you opt for something called a passive multi-asset fund. So let me unpack that. Passive means that instead of your fund manager choosing specific shares which they hope will be the winners, instead you just buy all the shares in a given market. Only 1 in 10 active fund managers, the ones that choose the shares, only 1 in 10 of them consistently outperforms their market. So the thinking is that you might as well just buy the whole market. And that's what passive funds do. They are market or index trackers. Now, multi-asset means that you can dilute your shares with bonds and other kinds of assets. The thinking here is that those other assets temper the volatility, the up and downiness of the shares, and also they help you diversify, spread your money around that little bit further. Generally speaking, the higher the equity content in a fund, the greater the volatility will be. For long-term growth, I wouldn't have anything less than 50%, half of your money in equities though. Now you can find these passive multi-asset funds online, and my favorite online tool is called Pick a Fund. I'll put a link to it in the description, and you'll see on the homepage they have a link to a walkthrough of the method that I would use to choose a passive multi-asset fund on that site. Okay, how you doing? Are you still with me? We've covered platforms, accounts, and funds. We're doing really well. If you can take action on this stuff, then your future financial health is assured. But let me give you just a couple more things to think about that will accelerate that process. The first is the power of small, regular increases to your savings. If you start putting £100 a month into your pension, say, that's great. But if 10 years down the line, you're still just putting £100 a month away, it's just not good enough. You can make a huge difference to your future by being intentional about increasing the amount that you're putting away. So set a date in your calendar 6 months from now and increase your payment by 10 quid a month. Do the same in another 6 months and whenever you get a pay rise. You just won't miss the extra money going out, and it will make a huge difference to the future value. Next, don't be tempted to trade regularly. Instead, buy and hold, and just keep buying every single month. When shares are down, you're buying shares at a discount. But when they go up, you've made money on all those that you bought before. Don't try and time the market. Just stay the course, keep buying, and hold your nerve. And finally, remember the tax relief benefits of a pension mean that you will end up with more in a pension versus an ISA for the same amount going in. Yes, you pay some tax when you take money out of a pension and you don't on an ISA, but still, pensions usually win. I did a video on that too. I'll link to that in the description. Your general order of operations should be Pay as much into your workplace pension as you can to get the maximum match from your employer. Then, pay as much as you can into an ISA, including a lifetime ISA for most of us. Then, start to shift the balance back to pensions as you get older because the tax relief there is just too good to ignore. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground today, but remember you can get all of this in a cheat sheet as a free download. Go to meaningfulmoney.tv/investing to do just that. I started this video by saying that there are tons of ways to invest, but I think that this is the simplest. For 95% of us, maybe even more, this is all we need to do. Pensions, ISAs, on a platform, decent low-cost passive multi-asset fund, invest regularly over decades. That's it. Hope it was helpful. If you've got questions or comments, then leave them below. I love to read them. Give the video a like if it was helpful and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Next time we've got another masterclass. This time it's talking about investing, but in retirement. I'll see you then.